I agree with almost everyone until I see the Darius coming back into map.
It's because you play Pantheon and you have a horrible time.
Actually, no.
Is it not that bad?
No, it's really, really good.
Then why do you have this problem?
Because it's Darius. Stop. Cut it. Cut it out.
Okay.
Let's look into what could possibly be the last game of the day. Let's specifically look into the top lane to begin with, because Kerberos should be bringing those niche picks. And if we can showcase what they share in common in terms of champion pool and the differences they have, it's simply not working.
And I'll put this one out here before we dive completely into this.
Okay.
This is 2 Camille games back-to-back, which have not worked. Chasey's come out of lane with 30 to 40 CS, and I need to see something a bit different. Look at those niche picks for Kerberos. You heard it in that interview there. He loves playing those off-meta things that only he really plays. Give me a Darius. Give me a Nasus. Give me something a bit different, because you are bleeding advantages in top lane. And while we saw improvements from mid and bot in that game too, I need to see something different in game 3 for them to come out with a win.
Yeah, exactly. And this is kind of the same as the XL series. Wasn't this stomp in the early stages of the series? But at that point, it was like, okay, NAR wasn't working out 2 games in a row. Now we start pulling out the niche picks again. So if this is the same, this is where they want to do the reverse sweep. Kerberos, you're pulling it out. This is happening now.
And we weren't able to talk about this specific topic, the idea that there's a gentleman that is getting constant counter picks even though he's not supposed to. We call him the Kasing. It's really important to highlight that one, because I think we have a graphic specifically for the Kasing. And it's really important. So far, he has been getting counter picks. I've done this. I don't know. This is how my life is.
You two agreed to this. This was literally Tom Kick in the meeting going, I want to call this the Kasing Uwu graphic. And Archon went, yes.
The only thing that is missing is the ears, but we'll be happy with this at least so far.
Modders at home, make it happen.
At this point, he hasn't been playing so much off the Uwu champions. It's kind of funny. Hopefully, maybe last game you want to pull out the Yumi note to shake things up a bit. I think it will be fun. I hope the casters will recognize the Kasing Uwu when it happens.
I'll call it out. You see a lot of the bans from Dusty have been targeting out Kasing's enchanters. They've been getting rid of them. They do not want to deal with them for good reason. This guy on the enchanters has been really stellar, and he's still getting counter picks. He got I can remember Zilly in that game. I was going to call it the Zeri, but that's the other Z champion. And I'm looking at Archrom's face. I'm so sorry I mentioned it again. Sorry about that, guys. The Zillion, though, with that Chrono Shift, made things like the Katarina really hard to pull off. Made things like the Zeri pretty hard to pull off. And the fact that Kasing still has a few extra enchanters and weirdness to pull out is really frustrating for Dusty.
100% counter pick rate as a support throughout the entire playoffs. And they've played every single stage of playoffs. Not legal.
That's insane. There's so many series, and it seems to be working every time. So is Dusty even recognizing this, or is it just that we don't care that much? So I want to see some changes where maybe the niche is coming out, and hopefully giving counterpick to Stend.
I know the storyline usually is how can the enemy team come back from such a big deficit, how they can pull over a reverse sweep. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go with the flow. I want to hear from you guys. How can X7 close the deal on the 3rd game?
I think at this point, X7 doesn't really need to change anything. It's more about just playing their style. We've seen they're comfortable in the early game, giving away objective. So at this point, do what you're doing, be comfortable, and the stage buff will just help them all the way.
Continue to draft for priority in your mid and top lanes. Make sure Viking can facilitate the way he has been, and then back that up with something for Attila that can scale to 3 items and pull that 26-minute timer off. They've done that pretty well so far, and even into a draft that was a little unexpected. I don't think they were expecting the Katarina there, even as, Trouble was explaining. Pretty good potential game for it. They still played out with discipline to get to the point where that Sivir could run over the game. They've got the game plan. It's working. You know they've still got some picks in the back pocket. Don't change anything yet until you're forced to.
The time is now. This could be it in favor of X7, a team that is looking to win EU Masters. They keep talking about it, but they can become the kings yet again of the NLC. You told me that you want to see Yumi and Zeri available. We have a conversation after this. Don't worry about it. It's going to be just between us two as we toss it to the casters to what could possibly be the last Summoner's Rift of the day. Now listen here. I need to have...
I'm out.
We're getting ready to go into game number 3. We might not be quite as confrontational here, but
he's not wrong, man. Zeri's fine, but Yumi? Come on.
I'm not keen on that one. I'm not keen on that one at all, but I have to be real. X7 are looking very dominant, and I think it's fair to say that this could very realistically be a 3-0. I think Dusty have been struggling because of their indecisiveness. I think X7 have just been so coordinated, so crisp, so clean, and they have just looked like the team of this finals.
And on the other side too, we mentioned a little bit at the outro of that last game, one of the strengths that Dusty have typically had is understanding what they're playing, knowing the ins and outs of it, knowing the combos. In these games, they've been picking a lot of skirmish champions. Your Camille's a really good one for that, right? Trying to play towards like long-range engages early on into the game. And they've been playing them as though they want to play for late-game teamfights. They're not picking the tools for the job they want to do.
Well, we're into Champ Select. We're seeing the Yasuo, no Yumi, luckily. The Renata and the Nautilus banned away. So pretty much the same bans we've had for the first 2 games of the day. Let's see if this is going to be another Xin Zhao from the side of X7, or maybe they have something else up their sleeve.
So on game number 1, X7 banned Rakan. On game number 2, they banned Xin Zhao, so they did target Stend and Linkas with that last ban. I think right now your biggest concern could potentially be that Rakan, because so far every ban phase from X7 has been spot on. In their series versus Astralis, 3 jungle bans towards Taxa. In the series versus XL, 3 bans into Roscoe. And right here, they're shutting down a lot of playmaking from Stend with that Nautilus, and the Rakan also been banned away. So again, I feel like their ban phases have been spot on. And why I'm not necessarily saying the big phases is because these guys that you see on your screens right now, X7, can play pretty much any S-tier meta champion so well
Viking
into
was
any
waving
matchup.
us for a second until I realized it was a guy with the camera. I'm like, oh, hi Viking.
Was that why you were waving at him? Oh, you did the thing where someone waves and then you wave back, and it turns out they're waving the person behind
You're
you.
not supposed to point that out.
No, I will. I will.
Oh, okay. We are right through a lot of...
Oh, there we go.
And this is a different look. Now,
oh, that's a Linkus champ.
That is a Linkus champion. This is something which he's played a little bit, the Graves in the jungle, and the Aphelios for Den Voxnay. This is already just throwing those 2 ults into the fray. Very good turnaround damage from Dusty, and it's late game team fight scaling.
And also, it's very Dusty-esque. Linkas on the Graves had fantastic stats in the split. Then Voxnay, we also had a bunch of clips from his Aphelios. He also had like a 5-man engage with his Graviton. Like, this guy will get the victory out of you when he's on form. Unfortunately, with the Zeri, couldn't quite 1 versus 5 with the Aphelios. He might have more potential to do that. And I'm wondering right here, do you throw Backland into something that he's more comfortable in, such as the LeBlanc potentially?
Well, it depends. I actually wonder if they want to Gnar here. I think if you just... I think you might be at the point where you have to just pick something safe for Kerberos now and not play for that counter pick, because I've not really seen Dusty make use of it, but they've chosen to go for another option, and it's Thrash Valios.
Pray with me. No Camille Kerberos. No Camille Kerberos. We don't need it. We know he's a very capable player. We know he has a very wide champion pool. Kerb, show us it. We know the Kale's in there. We know the Nasus is in there. We know the Darius is in there. You've got that left hook, that thing that people might be caught off by, and that could decide this game.
I think right here you are 5 for Kerberos, and you give him one of the picks that you mentioned that makes sense in this current composition, because a slow right here from a Nasus allows a lot of free fire on a Graves that wants to play pretty short range, on an Aphelios to try and get extra auto attacks in, but also provides with that front line. But I think the most important thing is that this Gnar got banned away, because Chasey on that pick was an absolute menace, and every single game in the playoffs that I can remember of Chasey playing the Gnar has been so good from the side of X7. Now, what have you got left for them? Because I'm thinking here, I'm seeing Rakan, I'm seeing Zeri, I'm like, just bring out the Swain from the side of X7. It just works.
Well, I wonder if this is a Talir angle for Dusty. Because I know that Backlund has typically liked his high mobility assassins, whether they be AD or AP in terms of the Yasuo and the Yone, but I'm looking at this comp they have. They need some way to hold up a front line, to control some zones, because you have a smoke screen, you got like a hook, which is kind of unpredictable and unreliable, rather, at the moment. I think you need something a bit more, but it's not Backlund's archetype, and he goes towards the LeBlanc instead.
I think at this point, Dusty needs to go back to comfort, and Backlund's champion that has been permanently banned through spring and summer has been that LeBlanc. He's got a bunch of solo kills on the champion as well. And we might even get to see like your favorite matchup, the LeBlanc into the Ahri.
The old school one.
If this happens, we're actually about to get all of our champs picked in like over 2 games. This is going to be amazing.
I'm getting very sad here, guys.
The Deny Nymera. I still get my LeBlanc, but the Swain, like you were talking about there, has been locked in. It's a very consistent pickup, and it actually looks like a thing might just... oh, no, sorry, the Rakan's already there, but...
And also Kissing also always hovers Zillion.
I know, that's why last time I barely even noticed
I'd
it
like
got
to
locked
say
in.
Zillion is a top lane pick as well. We saw Kryze play
Oh, he did that into
previously.
Gwen.
Exactly, into Gwen.
Yeah.
But
Gauntlet down.
Now, so what you're saying is Kerberos is actually going to hover this Zillion. It's a really good top lane.
You can play Darius into this composition. You can possibly try, because you have a lot of people piling up, right?
Yeah.
You can try to snowball through a side lane. Now, of course, Graves is a champion notoriously, and I have the most hate for it, doesn't gank very often.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna get ahead in the lane, you're gonna have to do it on your own.
There it is, there it is. It's a Curb classic, baby, the Darius
What I'll
getting
say
locked
is,
in.
You now have very little engage on Dusty.
Yes.
You are praying that X7 run at you. And in fairness, you got a Jarvan there. And you got a Swain, and they're not the longest range champions. They do want to be up in your face. So maybe you're looking at X7's compensate. The only way they get to play is to play into us, into the Graves, into the Aphelios. But I look at this, and Dusty, if they want to start fights on their own terms, it's quite difficult for them. At least they have late game damage, but it's not easy to start it off.
But jokes on you, don't want to pick up fights, apparently, from what they saw game 1 and 2. But I'll agree with you. It's very difficult to start a fight with a chain or a hook. I think what they might try to do here is potentially try to split and have Grace shadow one of the solo laners, right? But at some point onwards, you cannot kill the Fiora on a side lane. At some point onwards, Swain becomes such a huge tank where even though LeBlanc will poke you down, she will never be able to push you out of lane. You've got a bunch of sustain. What I'm seeing here from the side of Dusty is we want to feel comfortable in our champions. It doesn't matter if the composition makes sense 100%, because it doesn't. There isn't a front to back to support an Aphelios pick right here, but it makes sense because the champions are comfort for the players, and right now being 0-2 down, backs against the wall, they need that.
On the other side though, X7, lots of individual power for them too. A duelist for Chasey, how we have loved watching him on that pick. Swain, back for Tempt, back to this champion he's done so much damage on over this. We've got Zeri back in the mix. The Jarvan's back in the mix. If this is comfort for one side, it is comfort and absolute explosive power from X7. You're not even kind of getting this comfort advantage. You're just matching it at this point.
How has Zeri made it through all 3 games? How has this champion been picked up? And I know Dusty did get their hands on it in that last game, but even so, how is this champion still showing up?
One of the great mysteries of the world. So you're actually not high enough level to know that information yet.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, when you beat the next Pokemon gym, we can finally tell you that information. It's the electric type, yeah.
You need to bring a rock type. There's no Malphite.
Oh.
That's what you needed to be able to deal with the Zeri.
And there wasn't Gnar. He throws rocks around.
True. Depends on the skin. Depends on the skin, to be fair.
He was playing vanilla, so he does throw rocks around.
I do want to actually turn my attention towards this top lane though, because you've got the Fiora, you've got the Darius, but if we just go off like how these two have been playing,
It's going to be a fist fight.
Chasey's just been dominating though.
Yeah, it's
every
a fist
time.
fight where one person is throwing the punches.
Yeah.
There's Curb, like, the thing is, I don't want this to detract from the great season which Dusty has had.
Yes.
But I'm looking at this series today, and just so many players are just not hitting the mark right now, particularly Curb, and that individual laning part of it too, where he's often been so successful, needs to find it again in this game 3, because if he doesn't, he's going home.
Yeah, I think the thing is Dusty, there seems to be a lot of things in the right places, but it's not all coming together. You know, there's something missing. In that last game, they had a great comp. They didn't have the spine, the backbone to actually pull off, you know, the aggression of that comp.
Initiative.
Yeah, the initiative. You know, first game, they wanted to fight, and they were fighting, but they were fighting once they were behind. If they'd fight on even terms, those fights could have been very different.
I'm going to give a little bit here the silver lining, because we said even though Dusty is more of a blue side team, you do go towards the red side because you do want Kerberos on something that he's comfortable on a counter matchup. And even though he did get that in games number 1 and 2 and didn't perform, I want to remind everyone that in the Excel series, his Na was not looking that great either. But the second he jumped into Darius blind, suddenly his confidence started jumping, and you could see the Kerberos that we know on his nest peak. So maybe that is a case of Kerberos feeling more comfortable on the champion, try to snowball his lane alone, because again, we have Linkas on one of his champions as well, and that's Graves, notoriously known for not ganking that champion. Your high resources, you're farming your jungle, you keep clearing until you're strong enough for these team fights. And by then, your Darius needs to be ahead.
Just a quick update on what's going on, hence why we're not in game number 3. Dusty are currently sorting out an issue with communications and comms, so hopefully it's a quick fix, and we're getting into this game number 3 as soon as possible. I know all of these players are, eager to wrap this up, and I actually did hear from the side of X7 as we were getting our headsets on, their coach walks over, and you just hear Neas go, right, lads, let's wrap this up. Like,
No,
they are expecting a 3-0.
That is the attitude to have. Of course, you don't want to put it into question. And
Yeah.
if there's anything we can say about X7, is that they have been, again, just very methodical.
Yes.
Right? This is a team that does have their explosive moments, but it feels like their victories are never really in doubt when they're ahead. So, look, for them, what a way to stamp their foot down and have 2 3-0 finals back-to-back. Spring, summer, reps for EU Masters, stomping their authority on the NLC.
Here we are, game number 3. X7 are 2-0 up in this best of 5. They are 1 Nexus away from 3-0ing the NLC Summer 2022 Grand Finals and moving on to the European Masters in the most dominating tournament run we've seen in the playoffs I have seen in an incredibly long time.
So, Dusty here are completely backs against the wall.
Yeah.
And you can tell by them resulting to pure comfort champions. It's like, screw the team comp, we're going full comfort, boys. Now, if we go all the way back to Dusty's history, the fact that they're even in the finals right now is such a huge success for them, a big success story. Dusty had traditionally found themselves in relegations, scraping their way back into the NLC season after season after season, only to get in 2022 spring in 3rd place, only losing to Bifrost, and just about that not making EU Masters, to then finish 1st in regular split in summer with a complete roster swap from spring, and now sitting in the grand finals. So yes, historically for Dusty, this is one of the biggest successes for the organization's history.
Yeah.
And the team and the players should be proud for even getting this far.
And also to mention, they are the only Icelandic team we've got here at the NLC. So for Iceland, it's amazing to see them have a team make it to the finals. Now, we all want it. We want the reverse sweep, or it to go all the way to 5. I know all of our viewers in Iceland, including the president, by the way, is going to have his eyes on this, and hopefully for them, Dusty can make it happen. But we'll get into that as we look at this top lane here. Chasey versus Kerberos, a lane that has been very, very Chasey favored the entire time.
And considering the fact that Chasey came in and had... Oh, okay, I should think about that. Junglers, not ships crossing in the night, very much in the daytime. And Linkus, while Graves is not great at ganking, very good at bullying around enemy oppositions and dueling early. And this is very important. It stops Viking doing what he did so well in the first couple of games and just supporting his lanes.
Oh, but look who's moving from top lane first. So it's Chasey moving first from the top lane, but it's Buckland moving first from the mid lane. So both junglers feeling pretty comfortable to have a second person there. But again, I love how you mentioned it. Graves is so freaking sleeper, and he's so good at taking these 1v1s in the jungle, and Viking, he's just running circles around his camps.
Yeah, well, Viking trying to look for the combo, but
he dodged it. Linkus got the red buff, got the blue buff, he's got the sustain.
Smite.
The Vision of Empire comes down, the smite from Linkus is going to be there, but Chasey's popped the ghost and Viking's going to flash away. Linkus flashes forward, burst blood to Viking. Backland flashes in with the chains, the Sigil of Malice, double buffs to LeBlanc, baby. But now Tempt is going to chase him down, throws out the hand of Palpatine and locks him down. Backland has nowhere to go, no one to run to, as he is going to be caught on his lonesome, but Tempt is going low! Oh my word, Backland! Kayan turns it around.
That's what we talked about, how important it is for these players from the side of Dusty to be on comfort picks. Linkus on his Graves, bullying around Viking the entire time in his jungle, dodging the flag and drag. But I feel here there's a little bit of a miscommunication, because we said Backland was moving first for Dusty, but Linkus has been betrayed by both of his solo laners right here and ends up dying. And Backland on this LeBlanc, permaban over in spring, very respected in summer.
But what happened there was effectively a invade in 2 parts, where you see Linkus invading and knows that he isn't going to get his solo lanes there first. He waits until they're a little further back to get back to lane and then goes again. But it doesn't mean his lanes magically have prior. His lanes are still running there, but they're still behind the X7 ones. Linkus chooses to buy into that. And somehow they brawl their way into a 2-for-2 with a lot of that gold going to the LeBlanc, and that's great, don't get me wrong, but that was messy.
They are bringing 3 people into mid lane just to threaten Backlund, but this does mean that now Attila has to be careful. Caught by the Graviton, the hook goes wide from Stend though, and Attila just about survives that.
Little bit of a miscommunication right there between Den
guaranteed
Voxney
hook.
and Stan. It would have been a guaranteed hook right there, because that was a really nice Graviton landed by Den Voxney, but they might have
there we
around
go.
two.
The Ignite is ticking. It looks like
Linkus.
Attila should just be able to survive this thanks to the shields from Kasing. The Linkus is maybe fishing for a cheeky kill, but now both of the summoner spells burn from the side of Attila and only an Ignite from Stend.
I'm just honestly happy to see some fire and some spark coming out of Dusty. Invading in the early game, Linkus playing around with Viking in the jungle, Backlund diving in to get these kills. Bot lane wants to fight as well. This is the best of series that we expected to see start to finish, and at least Dusty are showing some signs of life.
And I just wish we could have seen more of this in the first 2 games, because this is what we want to see from Dusty. It's a little late into it, but they're starting to show up. Now, that doesn't mean that X7 is suddenly like, oh no, we're 1,000, 2,000 gold behind. They're still going punch for punch. And X7, credit to them for, once again, having really strong early lanes in the first couple of levels to make sure that that invade wasn't like a game-ending play where suddenly the Jarvan is out of the game.
But due to that trade in the bot lane though from the Voxney stand, means Viking has to soak up the pressure down bot, which means he's sowing on the map. And when you sow on the map versus Graves, Graves is going to invade your opposite quadrant of the jungle. Of course, unluckily for Linkus, there's only a Gromp, but the Wolves will be spawning real quickly, so he can very quickly grab the Gromp and potentially play around Den Voxney.
Well, they throw the Ignite down, but the Lantern was there, so it was pretty much guaranteed Den Voxney was going to get away. He steals a plate and everything, so Den very happy with that one as Linkus now going to get 2 camps here, although Viking may try and stop him. Flags, drags over the wall, sees there's a Graves in his jungle, and is actually going to not lose a single bit of that camp, so just gets a bit of a leash as Linkus now moving towards the top side. Maybe Chasey under some threat here.
I think he might be going towards his golems.
Yeah, I think he's just there to just make sure that Chase isn't all in, because Kerberos was just out of mana, right? And maybe if you kill another, well, you get level 6, right? Look, this is out of mana on Darius. See if you can bait them in.
He's not letting him crush it though, and Viking is also heading towards the top side of the map. Linkus' presence right there is actually all needed to crush that wave. Very nicely spotted, Nightmare. But so far, Dusty is ahead in the lane. 2 CS up for Kerberos. Backlund is ahead in CS as well. And then Voxney just about now is falling behind because there's a wave pushing towards him. So far, Dusty have been holding their own in laning phase versus X7, and that's a very important step 1.
And a lot of this is now very important for Backlund, who is on his LeBlanc, a signature champion for this player, 2 kills. And now, my understanding of the matchup is that LeBlanc is not great into Swain. I'm going to lean on your experience here, Jake, because you're a bit of a LeBlanc care. But how much gold do you need to be ahead of a Swain, do you reckon? Is 2 kills enough to make you feel better about the game?
I think, especially on the current patch, no. Weirdly enough, this is actually a matchup I don't actually play all that often. I just don't get to see it all that much.
Yeah.
Normally when Swain gets picked, I don't typically pick LeBlanc.
That's what I was wondering. So I was like, every time I've seen it in Pro, I'm like, huh, this seems a bit unplayable. And
there's worse matchups. I think if they'd picked Talia here, this would have been just giga pain. But they decided to go towards the Swain. I think it does lean towards the Swain, especially when you've got the scaling aspect, the amount of kind of interrupt he can run, as you can see there. Getting those 2 kills early is going to be nice to Backlund. He has got that level advantage, but realistically, you do need to do more. And he's got himself a Graves, so he's going to have an aggressive jungler, and you pick LeBlanc to play with your jungler. You pick for that 2v1 or that 2v2 very aggressive playstyle.
And I think I wouldn't be surprised if Backlund's target actually around the fights is a Viking, trying to push away the Smite holder, especially when it comes to these Dragon and Herald fights, which both teams have shown they're very willing to take very early on. Taking Viking out of the fight, having no Smite for X7.
Oh, Flash comes in, Lantern's there, they get a knock
Viking!
A dunk from Viking! And it's turned beautifully! Den Voxney! He's got the chakrams! Den Voxney with the hero play! 2 kills to him! And it's just an absolute slaughter in the bot side!
And you know what? For a couple of games, it's been a little bit quiet on the other side of the room, but look at that. What a wonderful turnaround by Den Voxney, who screams out an approval over from the Dusty camp.
And honestly, this looked pretty grim, especially when Viking dives into... That was double knock-up into full Cataclysm, 3 people, but because of the chakrams onto Den Voxney, he had the right gun to turn around the damage, and when 3 members pile up on top of each other, this weapon really hurts.
And that is actually the perfect
He just screamed soothe.
That is the perfect 3-weapon switch for Aphelios, by the way. It's at level 6. You go from the Severum, which stacks up your chakrams. You go straight into the Calibrum. You get rifle turrets. You get the ability to auto-reset. You got your ult in there, too. That is a perfect Aphelios turnaround play by Voxney. Really well played.
And I just want to remind people that early on we had a highlight reel of the Voxney, and this guy used his Gravitum ult. He flashed forward into 5-man Moonlight Vigil with Gravitum to even engage for his team in the past. So if there's anyone who's going to take Dusty on their back when they're feeling down, that is then Voxney. He tried in game 2, wasn't quite possible. I think here, Aphelios is more of his style of champion to do the carrying with, and so far, he hasn't been disappointing.
Until it just loses so much health.
It's rifle turrets. It gives you effectively free auto attacks from double the range that you're normally there, and that could be such an important weapon combo to check as the game goes on. Now, he doesn't have that weapon combo now for another minute or so until he can recycle his weapons. Azator was particularly good in the NLC in spring, talking us through the 1v1.
He's running it down, he goes in for the flash, but a great riposte on that cripple there from Curb. Means he's not going to be able to find the kill, but both Ghost going, and abilities coming up fairly soon. Curb might just try and find the re-engage.
But the thing is, when you have wasted your Ghost onto Darius, he becomes a very mobile champion, and Chasey has his ult up and available.
Well, Chasey's thrown down a grand challenge as well, and he's dodging everything. Curb knows he's in trouble, but he is able to actually time that out and survive the fight. So Curb, even though that could have gone worse, definitely going okay for him right now. And a big thing to note, look at the CS between these two. This is the first
Much
time
more competitive.
at 10 minutes where we have seen them tied up. Very, very comfortable on that. Yes, there's 2 assists to Chasey. And
Viking?
actually, Viking is coming in on the bot side, but
Linkus
Linkus
is
has
there.
also spotted him out. They throw down everything. The
my
Moonlight
God.
Vigil's there. And Stend is able to help finish up Kasing as he is deleted in the bot lane.
And this is the first game we've seen from X7 in a long time, not just this series, where it isn't just
Oh, here we go.
those lanes. See what's happening in mid lane now.
He lands those chains. It could be big, but the pop's going to come forward, and Backlund now actually losing out pretty hard here. The Vision of Empire is going to lock him down, and Tempt is going low.
He's got
Backlund is looking for the turnaround. Tempt's still got a little bit more to go. Time's out on the ultimate. Backlund has flash, but he's not feeling the chase. The level up comes in, and mid lane, nobody dies.
And we haven't necessarily been seeing this a lot, but the fact that Backlund is up 10 CS, that's because he has been doing this to tempt the entire laning phase. He has used these 2 items, got the Lost Chapter, get perma-shoving and perma-poking that Swain out of lane, where you force him to use his ultimate to push the lane and then back off, and that has allowed Backlund to get that 10 CS gold lead in the mid lane.
And I know we'd all love to see a couple more games of League of Legends today if they would present themselves. But I'm going to go just and put something on the table here. X7 are very, very good at staying in games.
Oh, okay.
At just staying in the game. They don't give you those easy fights. Talked about it a little bit in the Katarina game, right? Where there's like, look, you're not going to get that free engage. In this game, Dusty still need to somehow close out against everyone. Well, then it's not even going to be that crazy lead just yet. They find themselves at an advantage for one of the first times this series. X7, we get to showcase now, or see them showcase rather, what they can do when they're on the back foot.
And it's the first time that all 3 lanes are individually better than X7. Kebros holding his own, Backlund bowling around Temp. Then Voxney and Stend have made fantastic engages 2 versus 2 to get that Aphelios ahead. And Aphelios that has an entire Gale Force into a bunch of small items on the side of X7. They might look to even dive here.
I think they're just going to look to take down this tower as well. Backlund waiting around. Voxney's got the perfect guns to finish this up, and the tower will fall. Backlund threatening jumping in, but he's not actually going to pull that trigger. Does need to be a little bit careful here. The flag and drag could catch him out. He does have his mimic up though, so can get that double distortion off to safety. And I think the big thing that I want to kind of carry on from your point, Trouble, is Dusty. Now it's them playing their game. I think that's the big thing. Versus the previous games where it felt like they were playing into X7, he actually takes the turn around and looks to catch out as Linkus. Eats the claw. Temp's going low. Temp might go down. He's able to survive. No! Then Voxney comes in with the hero play, and he is able to secure another one for his team. Dusty are coming alive in game number 3.
And Backlund on that LeBlanc is just the next level on confidence, baby. Getting dunked down in 2 games back-to-back and getting your champion and having this performance must be lifting the spirits up.
And they've had 2 games now of trying to play skirmish-heavy champions in a teamfight style. They were struggling to find their engages, struggling to fight early. They go under comfort. It's not exactly as easy to play around as something like the Camille's extended engage, some heavy ganking jungler. and they do not give a monkeys. They're just fighting their hearts out in game 3.
So again, you see that Backline right here is using his item advantage. He has the loot, and he gets to push the wave in, and he actually starts trading into Tempt. Tempt overextends, and Linkus is there to punish that. But look at Backline. He will use his W back when Viking dives in and flash the Cataclysm. Insane reflex from the Dusty mid laner.
And something that Hipra and you were saying earlier is you play LeBlanc to queue up with your aggressive jungler to make those big plays. As soon as I saw that flip back with Linkus on the same screen, I was like, oh, it is on. And what a play it was.
And if LeBlanc uses her W or her R as a distortion to get away safely, there's always that possibility that she will ping back once you've used all your abilities. Backline understood that, Backline recognized that, and Tempt was punished for it.
He understood
really
the
smart.
assignment.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Passed it with flying colors there, and Dusty, they're doing a great job in this game number 3. We are 15 minutes in. The gold lead, 4,000 in their favor. Curb needs to be a little bit careful here. Does actually catch out to Temp, but the slows are starting to really cause a problem for him. The Lantern comes in as the Grand Challenge is thrown down, and that's 2 ultimates used there from X7. Curb actually only has to pop his Ghost.
And actually, that was Chase's Ghost and Teleport used in this fight with only 1 minute on the clock for the next Dragon, which means you're going to need Chasey at the bottom of the map so he is able to join in the fight. But Temp doesn't have Teleport available to him either. So top of the map could be open for grabs for Dusty.
Does have to be careful, but Chasey just going to get a little bit of punishment thrown down as looks like Dusty just going to let it clear away. Backline has that distortion available. And Rift Herald is actually going to get started up. It looks like with this Dragon not up for another 40 seconds. Dusty actually comes with the dunk! Bye-bye, Tempt!
Kerberos catches Tempt shopping. He's not paying attention at that point and goes down. And X7, they are the ones that look lost in this game. When it comes to this mid-game, Dusty have been winning the fights. They've been pushing in. They've been looking around the edges for poke, and X7 are caught flat-footed.
Such crisp play here from Dusty. We criticized them. We were very outspoken about how they looked lost, how they were being indecisive in their plays. They have picked for themselves. They understood what they need to do this game, and so far they are executing on that. But I do want to quickly hop back. Naimira, you did mention that X7 are very good at staying in the game, so that's something we always have to kind of keep in mind.
But if this game does go Dusty's way, all they need to know to do is pick self-sufficient laners. Kerberos keeping his own, Backline doing the same, then Vox instead, and all Linkus has to do is just fall for that late-game Graves damage, but now X7 are thrust into this pit, and Dusty have no reason going in.
And they have their ultimates back. They have most of their summoners. They have the tools to fight this. Actually so far ahead of Dusty that their objective bounty's in play, and X7 snap one up.
Yeah, they're going to start the Rift Herald down in the mid lane, but I don't know if they realized the tower was down or not, but should still be able to get the charge out of it. Viking not going to be able to run the interruption. Then Voxney gets the Lantern away. Charge goes down, but in comes Kasing. Instantly slowed down. Midnight Vigil lands onto 2. They do catch out to Sten. Sten's low HP. Kasing is deleted as they do get the dunk out from Curb. Tempt is low, and look at the chakrams on Den Voxney. Gets pulled back, but the Lantern's there. Backline chases for a little bit more. Attila's going incredibly low. The clone's going to tank up a fair amount as the tower's just about to go down. Then Voxney able to finish it up. He's got murder guns, so X7 have to move away.
And I heard that chat was talking about Sten only being able to play Nautilus because his thresh play in this particular skirmish in the mid lane was absolutely monumental. The second Kasing went in through the wall, that Flay kept his Aphelios alive.
And you know what? We've seen some very close Aphelios performances in the rest of this playoffs when you see the Aphelios trying to play around their weapon combos, trying to play around these big moments. They haven't worked out for the most part in the 1vx scenarios, but looking at how confidently Den Voxney plays, this was disgusting from the Aphelios.
I think that play from Stand is what saved the entire team fight right there, keeping that Aphelios alive. Then Voxney was playing the front line, he grabs him back with the Lantern. He does the same thing again. It allows then Voxney to play so aggressive, and Thresh is a champion that never really comes in mind for a ban because it's so niche, and it takes away so much of that engage that something like a Nautilus, a Leona can provide to your team, but here Stand, he's just making it work.
And he's always the perfect champion for the likes of Aphelios.
Yeah.
We always see it with him because of the safety he provides, and it is giving Demvoxny the breathing room to take over any fight he gets his hands on.
It also gives you the extra mobility, that extra safety. Playing an immobile AD carry otherwise into a Jarvan kind of sucks. We know that. We've seen that with Sivir, we've seen that at Aphelios, but the Thresh gives you that extra kind of room for maneuver, and that, if that continues to be a threat, maybe X7 have another bot lane they need to be worried about.
And to be fair, the third ban has been the thing that they have been rotating around. Had it been the Rakan, had it been the Xin Zhao. So it could be something in their minds. If we do end up going into Game 4, that the third ban in the first phase could be that Thresh.
Yep.
So you can allow the Aphelios to go through, but then he doesn't have necessarily all the help from the Thresh coming in. But again, this is the first time Dusty find themselves in a gold lead in this series, and that's so important. 5,000 gold for the Icelandic Org for the first time.
And this is now kind of coming back to the nitty-gritty of the game. I think Dusty have now reached a break point where normally Dusty have problems with not having engage.
Yeah.
This is not really an issue now because you are so ungodly fed on this Aphelios. He is pushing so hard into your lanes that you have to respond to him. He doesn't have to engage. His team doesn't have to engage. You have to answer him. Look, Dusty just have free reign on the map.
Chasey's being chased as he is trying to run away. Sten looks at the hook. Great riposte does come down as Backland now is on the receiving end of a couple of people.
No
Backland
way.
actually able to flash away from the Cataclysm. The red buff slowing him down. Dodges out on everything. Actually almost finishes up Viking. 3 members of the side of X7 have been pulled up here, and now Curb trying to see if he can take this fight, gets the pull back on to Chasey, the dunk, the bleed out. This should be the end of days. The burning is going so low. Curb able to finish him up. Linkus will not be going down today.
And again, look at the pressure in the top lane from Backland. Gets 2 members of X7 towards the top side of the map.
3.
Meaning 3 even. And then the bot side of the map is absolutely up for grabs from the side of Dusty. Backland, he is looking.
I think that was smart by Backland not to go for that. As much as I wanted to see the LeBlanc one-shot, it was probably smart.
But just to quickly return to something which, again, has been one of my big things I talk about X7, they normally play very well defensively. They keep themselves in the game, and they are probably now waiting for a team fight where Attila can come online, because actually playing around the split map has been a bit rough. Attila, though, he's on the offensive.
Yeah, Sten may just be going down Backland's curse. that was on another
Sorry,
level.
mate, you're on your own.
Oh, I can't believe you did him dirty like that, Backland.
So just to add to your point, Namera, I completely agree, because X7 are a team that have lost literally only 1 game in the entire playoff series.
Yeah, one to buy for us.
So when no team have been able to take a game off of them, so you can study how games are taken off of X7, how in the world do you know how X7 lose? But so far, drafting Comfort, I think, is pulling the spirits up from the side of Dusty, where they're playing their best game, and that's all they need at the moment to at least get that gold lead.
Well, let's talk what's actually been going on in the item department, because Demvoxny, he's been sitting on that Bloodthirster and
here we go.
the Gale Force for a while. I might have to hold that because
Uh-oh.
Curb might be losing the fight. Chasey, what? He's deleted!
Okay, had anyone else expected that damage? Because I didn't.
I mean,
I was like, he doesn't have anti-heal, so this is actually going to hurt.
Yep.
Nope.
oh gosh, the second item hit by Kerberos, and he starts flexing the muscles in that matchup. It buys time on the sideline.
The
It buys
guns.
space on the other side of the map.
no.
Dusty have perfect weapons to shred the Baron.
Yeah, going to start it up as well. Viking, can he make that hero play happen? He has been playing so well today. He needs to make it happen. They do catch out onto Demvoxny, but Demvoxny's untouched. A 3-man Cataclysm does come out for the moment as Backland jumps in, able to delete himself a kill onto Tempt. Baron back to business. Attila untouched in the meanwhile, though, as he does throw out the W. The flash comes forward. The hook goes wide. They do try to finish off Attila, but he's able to survive. Teleport coming in from Chasey. Baron has been secured for the side of Dusty, and they can go back to base, all 5 members strong, and set up to take some objectives.
And once again, how bad do you have to feel for anyone on X7 diving into Dusty? Once again, Kasing flashes into the enemy team and doesn't find enough. Once again, Viking is trying to find the targets, and he doesn't find enough. X7, they are struggling by running straight down the throat of Dusty's team comp.
They do have a very small window, though, because right here, then Voxner also burns his flash. But you see, in this particular one, he has the perfect guns to shred down the Baron, but to also teamfight when members of X7 are running straight into him. So even though the charm, does land from the Rakan, you see that how he's untouched in the backline, because the only member that can beat them in backline is dead, and that's Chasey on the Fiora.
And this is the real problem when Dusty's team comp, when they get so far ahead that they force you to coming into them.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing in this game. Dusty, they perform well in the early game. It's through lanes, it's through skirmishes, it's through individual plays, and just being comfortable to play aggressively. And that forces X7 into a really bad spot.
It's lovely seeing the Dusty green room. Every time we cut to them in the last 2 games, it was a bunch of very sad people. But it looks like they may continue happy clapping away there because Chasey has been caught, able to block away on the Q and actually get the slow off onto Curb, but Stend is over the wall and Chasey might be in trouble. The flash hook from Stend. Down he goes. It's going to be a dunk from Curb to secure this one up. Chasey bleeding out, running away, but then Voxy will chase him down. He's got a sliver of health, 24 HP for Chasey. He's making the grand escape, but then Voxy will continue to chase him down. Stend will look for the hook. Chasey jumps over the wall as he bolts towards the tower. But he is probably in execute range unless then Voxy can finish him up. Can't find the Q, can't find the finish up. Chasey goes down for a 3rd time, but this time no one gets any goals.
Very well played from Chasey right there. And I'm like, during this whole thing where Dusty are very preoccupied with chasing Chasey around the map to trying to get the kill, what does X7 get for it? And the answer is not necessarily much. You see that X7 are now stuck between a wall and a hard place where they do not have the engage that they want, and even if they do, they can't get deep enough in the back line.
Linkers has to flash away. Vikings caught up by the chains. Oh my word, the ignite is enough to finish him up, but backline will go down. Kasing is the one to secure the shutdown though, so a lot of gold given over to the support. And Dusty now bringing in the rest of the crew. Denvoxny, Infernum, and Gravitum in his pocket. Baron buff on his team.
Chase
and they are looking to get themselves onto this tower, into the base of X7. They don't want to be 3-0'd. They want to put a performance on here. They want to try and turn this around. Inhibitor will go down here to Dusty. They use the Baron buff effectively. Chasey dodges away on a hook. Does eat a cheeky flay though, and I think Dusty are just going to back away.
And when their backs are against the wall, the plucky Icelandic organization has bared its teeth. This is the team which was permanently in relegations, bottom of the table, no real prospects beyond that, but they have made it to finals and they are not leaving early.
And you'll see again, they find the picks and they use the numbers advantage on the map. And even though Backland does die, and that does hinder a little bit the KDA, he did his job right there. He took Viking out of the map, which means there's no flag and drag, there's no cataclysm, which means then Voxny can get to play further forward to get this inhibitor down. And that has been the case. And now you'll see Dusty moving towards the bot side of the map. Only mid and bot remain for them, and they're setting up their vision on the bot quadrant for jungle.
It's crazy as well, because Curb has always been the one with a large level deficit, a large CS deficit.
It's the Darius,
this
man.
time, he has turned it around. This Darius has been such a problem. Attila is low, Backland not going to be able to finish him up. He's too much to get in range. And Tiller is able to escape scot-free for now, but Dusty rotating everyone down to the bot side.
I'm just saying, man, it's Kerberos on his picks. 100% win rate with his niche picks in playoffs. It wasn't a miracle that he pulled it back versus XL when he picked the Darius, and right here he's putting up a heck of a performance on it.
He's putting an absolutely phenomenal showing here. And him and the rest of the team, Backland on the LeBlanc. He is now comfortably far enough ahead of this Swain, but he can actually be a real threat. You've got the threat of Denvoxny, and we're actually going to see a whole bunch of ultimates get popped there. Kasing's trying to find himself a kill onto Curb, but Curb's too tanky, and now Temp's been pulled in. Another hook comes in from Sten. Curb has to flash away. Chasey does pop himself the grand challenge, and it looks like Curb's going to be able to get away. The Ghost has been popped. The hook again from Sten lands as he flays himself into the middle of the fight. Backline is dunked down by Viking and taken out as X7. They find a second wind in the middle of this fight and are able to send Dusty packing from the siege, but Denvoxny with the murder guns is just too much for them to bear, so they're going to back away.
There's TP on Temp.
I mean, flashbacks to the Astralis series. When you go down towards this bot lane inhibitor, X7 come to play.
They have to deal with their base, though. The minions are just doing so much damage to the tower. They're not going to see Dusty commit any further, although Denvoxny is threatening it.
There was the perfect ward on the right side of your screens right there for Temp to actually TP and potentially catch people off guard. And there's a Dusty that you mentioned very well right there, Heat Brain. There were so many minions running into that X7 base that Temp actually had to sit back and clear. And I feel like there was a little bit of a whoopsie misexecution right there, because the second then Voxne throws out his Moonlight Vigil, Kerberos pulls away the target that the Moonlight Vigil lands on, so the splash damage doesn't get to hit a lot of people, which means that Dusty need to do what this composition does really well and kite backwards.
Really solid stuff. 28 minutes on the clock. The gold lead, phenomenal. 7,000 for Dusty here. As Dusty are looking to turn their attention towards this Baron Den. Voxne now 3 items, Infinity Edge there, got an extra crit cloak, just for a little bit of added spice. As the Baron goes down, and that is the second one over to Dusty. The teleport from Chasey, wasted, frankly. Joins way too late, and with the Dragon spawning up as well, Dusty can turn their attention towards their third Drake of this game. And X7 now starting to scratch their heads and run out of options, to be completely frank with you.
And honestly, in the current meta, Baron taking speed has increased so much. Aphelios is one of the fastest in the game too with the right weapons. It means that you're not wasting time on the Baron, then having to reset to regain HP, then go back towards the Baron. They take the Baron, they take the Dragon, they sweep the map, and they set up for what should be a death blow versus X7.
And again, their champions are so good at peeling backwards from the likes of Rakan, from the likes of a Jarvan, that you can have 2 lanes that are pushing in at the same time and have them both being safe. Especially when you have a Thresh hovering around behind the wall, ready to bail you out from potential engage. That is so huge. As you'll see, Backline is going to hover towards the top side of the map, looking for picks, making sure that this wave that's crashing the tower right now is being baroned up, whilst the rest of Dusty are going to take care of that bot lane.
Sing. That is a scary amount of damage, and then Voxne is untouched. The Moonlight Vigil is enormous. That's going to be the double dunk coming in, and Den in the middle of everyone pops the stopwatch. Kill secured by Backline. Attila caught out by the chains. Double chains, double damage. Curb pulls back into the hook, into the dunk, into the game over. It's not going to be a 3-0. Dusty fights back.
All it took was comfort. Champions Dusty needed to get back in game, and what other way to do it other than Buckland on his LeBlanc, Kerberos on his Darius, then Voxne on that Aphelios. What a freaking performance from the laners. We said they had to get ahead in the early game, and damn they did.
And I was chatting to Dusty before the series started, and yeah, there was some understandably bit of nerves, a little bit now, because it's first time on stage for a lot of them. But one thing which Dan Voxne said himself was, the longer this series goes, the more comfortable we're going to be, the more we get to kind of get into things. We're now going to 4 games, at least. That's another game on stage. How quickly do they get to bed themselves in here?
There's always that threat of they can't make any mistakes. It has to, if they want to go for the reverse sweep, they have to win every game at this point. If they lose the next game, it's done. It's a 4-game series. Yes, they showed some teeth going into this, but man, the wind is in Dusty's sails right now. They have that momentum, and I want to see more of that. Less Camille, more of these kind of niche picks that suit their playstyle. You brought up the graphic trouble. 100% win rate in playoffs on these niche picks for Kerberos. He looked like a completely different player. That was sorry my brother was playing in game 1 and 2 from Kerb.
I think Darius is his reset switch. In the Excel series, again, he was playing the now, didn't look very hot. The second he switched into that Darius, it's like something turned on inside of him, man. It was like, it's game time now. And he ran down Chasey on his Fiora. It's one of his most played champions that he very rarely loses on.
I am so happy to see Dusty not let those 2 games get to them. That it felt like maybe they would be a little crushed from those games. They weren't crushed. Dusty came back on fire in game number 3, and they're giving us 4 games at the least. We're going to throw it over to Archeron and the rest of the analyst desk to break down that bonkers turnaround from Dusty.
Not only that, but Zeri lost 2 games in a row. Jumping into comfort, boys, we got it, and I had to switch the time. Now it's a Dusty time, okay? Yeah. Whenever someone wins, I'll switch the time, by the way. This is the secret right now. Let's talk about, to begin with, experience game by game. You brought it in the previous game saying Dusty are learning, they are adapting. Can they do it fast enough? I think
That's
so.
a good question. Now they're moving forward. Now they won the game. Game 1, shaky. Game 2, learning a tiny bit. But Game 3 already showing so much more promising gameplay. And especially Den Voxne improving so much from Game 2 to 3 and carrying so much of the team fights.
We'll start with the top lane with the Darius versus the Fiora. It's not the easiest matchup, but it's still doable.
And I really want to praise Kerberos as well, because obviously the first 2 games he was behind heavy amounts of CS. This time he absolutely comes out on top. And we saw that across the board, honestly, for the first time in a lot of ways. But the top lane was a real bleeding point. That was bandaged up, and now he was returning that favor so well in this game. And it was a necessary condition for Dusty to come up with a win, in my opinion. We asked for it the first 2 games. It finally comes through here in Game 3. He goes back towards something a little bit more him, a little bit more niche. It looks so much better. And honestly, once he gets those kills, Fiora just could not win those trades in the side lane. It was a disaster after a certain point.
When you know the top lane is comfortable, you can look into the bot lane, and then you can focus on that one. And Link has got not only the counter jungle, but also going for those counters on the bot lane. We have a specific replay. I mean, guide me through this one, because this is gorgeous.
Look at the engage from Viking. It's looking so hard, but then the chakrams, then Voxne just popping off in the background, looking like it was completely over, ending it with a beautiful kill up there. And then Backlund on the mid lane, trying to fight there, taking a small trade. Tempt also was happy, popping the ult, keeping it going. Linkas here to help out, trying to get some backup in the end. Look at Backlund with the movements there.
What I really want to call out about both these plays is there's 2 plays where in earlier games it feels like X7 would have won those plays. This time, Dusty get the flip both times. That first time round, it is the Thresh that dies, not the Aphelios, not the Graves, and the turnaround is there. The mid lane, Tempt goes in, trades out pretty well, gets the hook back on the clone from LeBlanc, not the actual one. Definitely flashes for the moonshot, gets the kill back. And those little plays, those mechanical, very knife's edge moments, went Dusty's way, and they really ran with it from there. We didn't see X7 manage to stall out the game until they could get back into a gold lead, because it never happened. They got snowballed on so damn hard, and real credit for Dusty for taking those small advantages and making sure it went across the map.
And can we highlight one play from the previous game? We don't have the replay, don't worry about that, but oh, look at them. They're comfortable. They now know it's possible. It's in their grasp, so it's really important for them to be smiling. Look at the amount of Dusty we have over there. We were making a joke back in the like, it's the entire region right there. But no, they're feeling comfortable right now. And this is really important for them that they know they can still fight versus X7. And I wanted to highlight something from the previous game where 9meta constantly was screaming on one play, kill him! Just kill him! Just go for it! This game, they did it because they felt comfortable with the picks. Is this what we can expect and need from Dusty on what could be the 4th game?
Yeah, and you look at his last fight, it's so much easier for them to play around. They are comfortable, they have the champions, they have been playing a lot, and it's just them rolling over. Now, the interesting thing, though, is X7 is the one to choose the side. Are they going to take the red side away from Dusty to try to limit the comfort for Kerberos specifically, or anybody else?
I mean, is this a chance to switch? Because honestly, you know, you get the Thresh, which is perhaps not that great, but the Flaze to interrupt the calm multiple times. So good from Sent. It's not the Sivir, it's not the Zeri, it's the Aphelios, which looks so much more comfortable for Den Voxne. You can feel that they are on champions, that they know the limits of so much better. Add in a little bit of spice, and actually X7 weren't quite as ready to deal with that as I think they were expecting. The question then becomes, obviously, does the side choice change things here or not? And you can see X7 here, still looking relatively chill, but not pleased either. You know, that's a lot of relaxed people on beanbags, but they're not happy.
Yeah, because we've only seen them lose 1 game ever since Viking joined in. It was versus Bifrost, and the game afterwards was kind of shaky. We know they can play with leads, but they can play from, like, can they recover after a loss?
That's a good question. And in the series, they did come back. So maybe this is the wake-up call for X7 to, okay, guys, it's not that easy. We need to pull it together and end it on the 4th game.
I agree.
Okay, I was expecting something else.
Wait. That said, 2-0 is always the most dangerous position to be in as a team.
Exactly.
Reverse sweeps are a known phenomenon, especially in finals, especially on LAN, because the moment those whispers come in, the moment you begin to wonder, and then game 4 maybe gets a little bit close, and then it gets a little less close, and it goes on from there, that collapse happens more regularly than you would think. And X7 being that confident, prideful, cocky, honestly, sometimes team. You heard their interviews. Attila was throwing mads. Can't say that word. Mad shade. There we go. That one works. If you can get into the heads, maybe throw a few arguments in there, and Dusty with that kind of revitalization, the reset switch. Trouble was talking about with that Darius top. Maybe this is the angle. I still think it's X7. I really do. But if it was going to start,
This
is
is
how
the
it-
point. And at this point, it's still match point for X7, and they need all the help they can muster. So that's why we're going to toss it to the fan on the street, the last one from this split in favor of Dusty.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Rosenberg, aka Little Rosie from Iceland. I just want to send my love and support to the Dusty team that is competing in the NLC finals this year. Let's just keep in mind that Dusty is undefeated and we're gonna keep it that way. All my love from Iceland. Good luck guys, I know you can do it and make Iceland proud.
It's looking rough, but there's the love. There's the love for Dusty. They have support.
is
They have-
alive.
yeah, the hope is alive for Dusty. So let's look into the fourth game of the day, shall we, gentlemen?
oh yes.
So far, we've had a lot of attention towards one man, Kasing. It is the Renata, it is the Yumi, and who else is being banned?
Oh, hang on. It's
Lulu.
Lulu. There we go. I was going to think it was thinking of the Renata. That's who we mentioned
Ooh,
that.
we had a specific segment coming in from you, Lulu, Yumi, and Renata. Is this something they should keep focusing on for Dusty, or they should adapt the bans?
I think they kind of need to ban out these enchanters because this, if Kasing gets on one of those, it always gives them an option. We can come back with scale. We have the enchanter to keep us alive in the game. And we also saw it with the Seraphine game, for example, for Dusty. It was looking possible. They had the scaling. It kind of held them back. But it didn't work out in the end. But just having the option, having the hope, when you have a early game comp like Dusty have now, if they fell behind early, it would be pretty rough and pretty stomp quick over.
I'll also say it's the first time it felt like where it wasn't guaranteed priority lanes. Aphelios kind of wins early on versus terms of the shove. The Darius gets to match up at that Fiora, and Fiora wanted some items, and that never really happened. And then in mid lane, the LeBlanc backline played that aggressively enough to keep that Swain in check. You saw the HP leads coming through there occasionally. A little bit of jungle assistance in, and he managed to make that work. For the side of X7, if they want to turn this around, get those priority lanes back. You know exactly how to win with priority, and for Dusty, don't let it happen. At least match, and you can get more games like this.
Let's look into the bot lane and see what champions are they sharing and where we could see the focus transferred into. There you go.
Beautiful.
Champion pool between them. There's a lot of champions they actually share between themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And the things we've just been seeing today, as we mentioned, is the Aphelios, it's a Sivir, and the Seri. So maybe this is where we start to see the changes. Are we going to finally remove Seri, or are we happy we just keep on seeing it losing?
I'm gonna say it. It seems like Zeri is not unbeatable.
Really?
No.
No, did he just say that?
I can't. The thing is, I agree, because we've now seen a couple ways this work. I will also say there is a very real world with that Draven you see on your screen over there, or wherever it may have been. I'm pointing at the screen. There you go. Thank you.
There's a Draven.
There's a Draven on that screen. We know Attila plays it. You want to shift that up and say, fine, you want to draft the Aphelios, you want to draft something scaling, let's just murder it in lanes, shift up the plan a little bit, get that lane priority, and murder them Voxnay. Just make it happen. I don't care if you got a thresh, you ain't getting out of that.
Yeah, because exactly what we see in all games is just, we're playing the same thing. X7 is just keeping to the roots, keeping it standard. Maybe it's time for X7 to now shape things up, pick the red side maybe, and have more of the counter picks to have a little bit of fun.